Hey guys, welcome back to another video where we are going to look at some of the enhancements done to Data Entity module as part of AgilePoint version 9 Software Update 1 release. In this release, there has been a major tech stack upgrade where we have moved the code base of Data Entity module to the same version of React.js as well as component library which is used throughout the rest of the product. This will result in significant improvement in performance while loading the screens. On the user experience side, the look and feel of the data entity module has been redesigned to match the modern UX style used throughout the rest of the product in version 9, including support for both card as well as grid-based layouts. Additionally, few key usability enhancements have been introduced as well. Let's look at these changes in action. So I'm logged into my AgilePoint portal right now and I'm going to navigate to data entities. Now, the first thing you will notice is the entire homepage has been modified to match rest of the product. It is having the same kind of fonts, look and feel, new kind of charts, all available. If you click on any of the navigation menu items over here, now you see additional options. You can see recently navigated entities, which you have been accessed in last few days, custom entities as well as standard entities. You can navigate all from here itself, and once you click on those entities, it will take you to those screens. Same feature for pick lists as well. If you go to add entity, the design of add entity screen has been changed. Previously it was all left aligned, now it is all center aligned to match rest of the product. Same thing for add pick list. In pick list, as I covered in one of the other videos, we have added a translation feature where you can enable the usage of multiple languages, and the pick list values the display names can be translated in other languages as well. This is, as I said, already covered in one of the other blog posts in more detail, so please refer to that. Similarly, there are generate entity with AI or generate pick list along with its options with AI option now added right over here. So I can go in and say I want to generate an entity for leave request. So this brings up the entity preview screen, and as you can see, the look and feel over here has been modified as well to match the new design. So this is all center aligned now. Let's go back to the home page. Similarly, the import export options have been redesigned as well. Now moving on, we are going to navigate to entity screen. So it is going to list down all the entities which are available in the system. Now, as we have done throughout rest of the product, now the card layout is the default view. You still have an option of looking at these in a grid-based layout as well. But even the grid layout, the whole look and feel has been changed. There is more visual effects in terms of status, people who own it, those are all added. But card layout is going to be the default. There have been enhancements done to the group option as well. So you're seeing now the bucketed view, which is based on type. I can change it based on category. I can change it based on even the app name, which apps these entities are used. So now I'm seeing an app-based grouping. I can see the owner-based grouping as well. In my case, I only have 2 users in this case, but you can, if you have more users, you can see a lot more buckets. So a bucket view is available. In terms of filters, again, the filter menu option has been changed. It is now available on the side as a flyout menu to be consistent with the rest of the product. You can filter based on standard or custom entities, active, inactive entities, published and draft, and also filter them based on the applications they have been used. So for example, if I want to see entities used in college enrollment, I can quickly see it over here. And you can always reset the filters. This is one of the functionalities which was highly sought after by our customer base, where they wanted to see the entities associated with the applications. Now moving on, we always used to support bulk operations, but now the bulk operations have been moved to the top over here. If I click on delete entities, for example, the pop-up dialogs have been redesigned as well as the bulk export menu has been redesigned. You can see the names, but when you hover over it, it shows you even the internal names of the entities as well. Similarly, if I go into one of the entities over here, let's look at say employee performance review entity. The display style has been changed in this case as well. You are seeing more visual effects which have been added. Similarly, if I go to details, I see the center aligned layout. If I go to fields, one thing you'll notice is there is an additional option at the top, show standard fields. By default, it is off, but you can say, I want to see the standard fields as well. So it has been provided as an option. The relationship tab again has been changed accordingly. If I navigate to entity diagram, it shows the entity diagram. If it has child entities, those would be shown as connected. In the data tab, you now have the search data option as well as the filter option over here. And the filter option has been converted to an accordion style. Instead of showing you all the filters, you have the filter configuration of number of rows, order by order. But if you wanted to see other filter values, like you can say, show me employee ID between this and this number, or how to group records and how to sort records, you can move things around if you wanted. You can change the display order. Similarly, if I navigate to say permissions, the screen pretty much remains the same. There has been new permission added, which I'll talk about soon. If I navigate to associations, you can see the list of all the applications as well as the corresponding files which have been associated with this entity. So I can see that it's associated with a form-based application and which form it is being used, whether it is a lookup or a primary data source, which process model it is used. The name of the file is also available. So pretty helpful in doing an impact analysis in this case. And if I navigate to audit trail, shows me the entire audit trail, who updated the property, metadata, or the value of the field itself, depending on what level of audit you have turned on. Like if I updated a record or created a record or updated the metadata, that all is captured, and a filter is available as well. So you can say, I want to see only entity level audits or field level audits or record level audits. If I navigate to pick list, again, pick list has a card-based layout. There is an option to switch to the old grid view layout as well. You can see that, but the default would be card view layout. Now, as I mentioned, if I go to any of the pick lists over here, there is an option where you can turn on translation of pick lists. You can always go in and say, I want to translate this in Chinese. Click update. And then you can always go in and translate the pick list items either manually or using AI, which I have covered in other videos. So I'm going to skip that in this video. Similarly, on pick list, if I go to any of the pick lists over here, I can see the associations. Now it will show me, in case of pick list, which entities this pick list is referred in, as well as which application this pick list is referred in. So I can have a clear visibility of, if I make any changes to the pick list, which all applications can get impacted or which all entities will get impacted. So that is regarding the user experience changes. If I go to the security screen, it remains almost the same, except that there is a new permission added. And if I navigate to the entity modeling screen, it remains pretty much the same as well. Now we are going to talk about some of the other enhancements which have been done. So if I'm going to go to data entity, now one of the big changes which have been added is ability to track changes to the data, which is a very frequently sought after feature. Now, Agile Point did have a data tracking feature, which was irrespective of whether you are using data entity. You could go and set up the data tracking connector and select some checkboxes, and it would track the changes of data. However, there was more and more requests that can we make it native to the data entity so that it is without even using the data tracking connector, I can automatically capture any changes. So that ability has been added. So if you go to details, edit entity, while creating the entity, or you can turn it on later on as well, you have an option, enable data tracking. By default, it is off because it is going to take some of the computation power. We would recommend that you only turn it on for entities which you want data tracking to be enabled, as well as only for the fields where you want data tracking to be enabled. So I've turned it on for this entity. If I go to fields, now it's not going to be turned on for each field. You have to tell for which field you want to turn on the data tracking. For example, on the applicant country field over here, I have said that it should be visible in data tracker. I could always turn it off as well. It's a toggle button. In my case, I have set it up for 4-5 fields. So if I go to my data tab at this point of time and go to say record number 3, I see there is a data tracker option now, which is lighting up. If I click on it, a screen comes up, which shows me the entire audit history across those 5-6 fields where I have turned on data tracking. So I've turned on data tracking for modified by, modified date, project name, applicant name, country, and bid amount. Now it is showing me the latest record at the top. The other values are at the bottom, and I can always say, show me the differences, and it will tell me where exactly the value changed. So it changed from USA to Canada over here, changed from this amount to this amount over here, and then again, so it will show me all those changes. So at this point of time, you're seeing 34,000 is the latest bid amount. So if I go in to my application, record number 3, I'm now in a form-based application, and I'm going to turn it. So say 33,000, click submit. So the data has been modified. Now I'll just quickly bring it up. So as you can see, the 33,000 row is showing up, and it is going to highlight that if I say show all differences. Now I might not want to see differences at across all columns. I want to see only across one column. I can always click on it, and it will show me highlight the changes only for that column. So that feature is available as well. Let's navigate to the entity list screen again. So if I select my filter over here and say new sales order demo, you can see that it is using one standard entity and 2 custom entities which have been created. So you can again do an impact analysis. You can group by application name. I'll remove the filter. So you can see group by application name works across applications. I can see which entities are used in which application, as well as I can search now by application name as well. If I say sales order, so I can see which entities are used in the sales order application. Now moving on, we are going to look at one of the new security levels which have been added. So first I'm going to go to one of my entities over here. Let's say expense report. One of the feature requests coming from customers was that we don't want to make a user an entity designer or entity owner, but they should still be able to look at the metadata of the entity while configuring the lookups or using them in the process model using the data entity activities. So we have introduced a new permission level called Entity Metadata Viewer. Any user who has this permission will be able to see the metadata while designing the application. They won't be able to change the metadata because they don't have the designer permission, and obviously they don't have the owner permission, so they cannot change the permission or assign other people permission. So let's add one user as an entity metadata viewer. I'm going to use my demo user in this case. Click save. What I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to my other browser window where I have already logged in as that user. And I'm going to open the expense report entity. Now, as you can see, I can see the metadata in this case within data entity, as well as I would be able to see all the column definitions while configuring lookups or activities. I can see the relationship. I can see the entity diagram, but I never gave access to the child entity. So it is complaining that you do not have access to this content. So if I give access to child entity, that would get rendered. If I go to data, because I'm not a designer or the owner, it will say I cannot access this. If I go to permissions, the same thing, it is blocked. Similarly, audit trail would be blocked as well. Now, the last thing I wanted to point out is a new field type which have been added. So if I go back as my designer user in this case, go to fields, add field. There's a new field type called time field which is available. Let's add a time field over here. I can specify the minimum and the maximum time using the time picker in this case. I can also specify a default value, which could be in hours, minutes and seconds or milliseconds, or I can say sure current time as the default value. And I can also specify the format in which I want to display the time. So suppose we select this one, click Save, and I've ensured that it is visible in Data tab. So if I navigate to Data tab in this case, if I look at the record, now the approval time is shown in the selected time format. So with this, we come to the end of this video. These are some of the enhancements which have been added based on the customer feedback. Thanks a lot for your time.